I mean, you think during that time, the early 70s, there was some degree of racism in the MLB?
Not as far as I was concerned. Matter of fact, well, there might have been in baseball in general, because I remember, I forgot what year it was. I'm just a kid, and I got called in the Cincinnati Reds office, and they told me I was hanging with the black players too much. That's a fact.
Wow.
And the reason I hung around with them, because they treated me like I was one of them. I'm talking about Frank and Vader and Jesse Gonder and Tommy Harper. Those were all my teammates, and they were all black. But I would go out to eat with them on the road because it seemed like I was too naive to even understand it. The white players didn't want to associate with me because I was arrogant. I was cocky. I was a local kid, Cincinnati kid. But Frank and Vader and those guys saw something that other players didn't see. And Frank would always take me out on the road to eat because I'm making $7,000 a year. And he was the best, if not the best player in the league at the time. And I didn't look at it. I was hanging out with black players. I was hanging out with teammates. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a racist bone in my body till this day. Some of my best friends are African American. I grew up with African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Used to rob stores and banks with them. No, just kidding.
Okay, so how did the name The Big Red Machine come together?
Well, first of all, in '69, we had a really good offensive team, and Dave Bristol was the manager. Okay, he was the manager of the Reds in the '69 season. '68, '67, we were a great offensive team. May have been because I started hitting 300, and Frank was there, and Vader was there, and Darren was there. In '70, Sparky took over. So here's what I'm saying. Dave Bristol assembled the Big Red Machine. Sparky developed it. When Sparky came from San Diego, everybody said, Sparky who? Because he was the third base coach for San Diego. Most street smart guy I've ever met in my life. Understood people. He used to tell me, think about this. Here's the way you treat his players. 3 ways you can treat a player. Pat him on the ass, kick him in the ass, or leave him alone. You don't pat the guy and he's kicked. You don't kick the guy and he's left alone. If you're going to ask him to go to war for you every night, you got to know what makes him tick. And Sparky was the best at that. And then we were such a good offense. Bench came along at 68. Tommy Helms come along at 66. We just slowly but surely become the Big Red Machine. I don't know when that started. I really don't remember.
Well, yeah, you guys also had Joe Morgan, Tony Perez.
Well, we got Joe Morgan,
all Hall of Famers.
Yeah, well, Perez came up in 67.
Mm-hmm.
I come up 63. Maybe Helms was 66, Perez was 67, Bench was 68. So slowly but surely, the Big Red Machine was being developed. And Sparky was the beneficiary of developing the Big Red Machine. We had a good team, man. We had good players at every position. Even our backup players were all stars. I'm talking about Griffey, Geronimo, Foster. Those were all good players. Foster had 52 home runs one year. Griffey had 300 several years. Geronimo won Gold Glove after Gold Glove. Concepcion, perennial all-star. And then the rest of the guys were Hall of Famers. Morgan, Bench, Perez, and me.
Mm-hmm.
We had a good team, man.
But you had a great team.
Yeah, we did.
You had a great team. So then in 73, the National League Championship versus the New York Mets.
Yeah.
What happened in Game 3 in the 5th inning?
Somebody hit a double play ball. I forgot who it was. It might have been Bench.
Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan. Okay, Morgan. Mm-hmm. And I went into Bud Harrelson, and You're playing in the playoffs. I'm trying to break up a double play, and I did what we call a pop-up. A pop-up slide is when you slide and you come up. And when I came up, my elbow hit Bud in the nose. I didn't try to hit him in the nose. I was trying to break up a double play. And he called me a name I can't repeat on your show. Maybe I can. You want me to repeat it?
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and repeat it.
I stood into him, and he said, "You cocksucker." And I said, "You don't know me that well, Bud." And then Wayne Garrett come running in and started the whole melee. And then they threw so much garbage at me at right field, they had to call time to clean the field up. And the umpire actually told Sparky, left field I think it was, I was playing left field, and told Sparky to move me to Shea Stadium, to move me to center field because there's no fans in the stands. Sparky said, "I'm not screwing my defense up because you guys can't control these people." Then they told me not to go out that night for room service or have room service. Don't go out and eat in New York. And after all of that, I ended up losing that playoff. And the Mets went to the World Series. New York fans can be on the edge, to say the least.
Yeah.
But they're great.
No,
they're great fans.
That game was crazy.
Huh?
That game was that game was crazy. The whole bench cleared. There was a huge brawl, like you said. Actually, Sparky had to pull the whole team off the field until they restored order. You rarely see that.
Yeah, you don't see that very often. That's the only time I've ever seen that.
Exactly.
That was mostly, and I'm not criticizing the Met fans because they support their team. They're good fans. But they were on edge. And we were on the verge of beating them to go to the World Series, and they don't want no part of that.
Right. I mean, it actually got so crazy that the Mets manager actually had to call Yogi Berra and Willie Mays
to go out to
calm down the crowd.
Had to go out to left field. The guy missed me this far from the third deck of a Jack Daniels bottle.
Wow.
Empty bottle. This hit me in the head by this far. That's when the umpire decided to go out. But you know, the Met fan, he emptied the damn bottle before he threw it at me.
All right. So he was twisted. He was drunk as hell.
No, I was
okay.
Yeah, bad aim though.
I know, right? Okay. You guys ended up losing, even though you actually had a 381 batting average in the series. You hit the game-winning home run to tie
off
game
of Harry
one.
Parker, day before.
Yep.
In the 12th inning.
Yep. Okay. So unfortunately, you guys didn't go to the World Series that year.
Right.
But then the next year comes around, 1975. Now, you got moved to third base.
Right.
Was that different for you?
Well, I had some infield experience at second base before I went to left field. I remember Sparky called me in the office on Monday or Tuesday, and he said, "Pete, we got to get some offense in this lineup, and I need you to move from left field to third base so I can give George Foster a chance to get in the lineup." And I said, "Fine, Spark. When you want me to move?" He said, "Tomorrow." So I come out to the ballpark the next day with George Scherger, great coach, and he hit me ground balls for about 2 hours, every direction. And I remember we were playing against the Braves, and the first guy up was a guy named Ralph Garr, who could run like a deer. And he topped one over the pitcher's head, and I came in and scooped it up and threw him out, and we went on to win 2 straight World Series. Because I could see where me playing third base helped the team become a better team.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked hard as anybody to perfect third base. And it worked.
It definitely worked.
Yes,
because that year you guys got to the World Series against the Boston Red Sox. How did you feel going into that game?
The game or series?
Well, the series. How did you feel going into that series?
I felt good because we had a good year. If you win a pennant, you're having a good year. I didn't know much about the Red Sox at that time, just what the scouting report said. Hey, that was my first. That wasn't my first World Series. My first World Series, '72. And the playoffs was bigger than a World Series, to say the least, against the Mets. In '75, we felt like we belonged playing against the Red Sox. And I had a real good series that year. Matter of fact, I won MVP in that series.
Exactly.